The author is penniless, grieving, an outcast, and then a monster is born. By the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. One of the most famous sentences in all of literature. But here's the real shock. When Mary Shelley wrote it, she was only 18. Destitute, grief-stricken, an exile. For her, this novel wasn't just a story. It was survival. You see my perfect prose pursuers. Before there was Guillermo del Toro's 2025 movie Frankenstein, there was 2024's Lisa Frankenstein. But before that, we had to go way back to 2015 for Victor Frankenstein. Yes, but before that, 2014. Seriously? Only a year? 2014's I, Frankenstein, which followed
1994's Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which before that was 1974's Now Frankenstein, which followed 1969's Frankenstein must be destroyed. And before any of that, there was just
Mary Shelley, sitting in a rented house by Lake Geneva in the year without summer, 1816. The skies were dark, volcanic ash blotting out the sun, and she and her companions, including her scandalous lover Percy Shelley and the infamous Lord Byron, were trapped indoors, inventing ghost stories to pass the time. Behind the atmospheric gloom, Mary's real life was darker still. She had been cut off by her father for running away with Percy, who was already married when they eloped. She lived under constant financial strain, as Percy was drowning in debt. She was also grieving the loss of her first child, a baby girl who had died just weeks after birth. And she was painfully aware that in Byron and Percy's brilliant literary circle, she was the youngest, the least proven, with everything to prove. When she picked up her pen that summer, she wasn't just writing for fun. She was writing to earn her place, to process her grief, and maybe to build a future in a world that seemed determined to cast her aside. The result? Frankenstein, with the now often dropped subtitle, Or the Modern Prometheus, a novel about ambition, creation, rejection, and the terrible cost of neglect. And in its most famous paragraph, we glimpse both her genius and her torment. Greetings and welcome to Pursuing Perfect Prose, where we chase literary perfection the way Victor Frankenstein chased better judgment. I'm Lee Stewart, and our quest in this video is to decide whether Mary Shelley's most famous paragraph from Frankenstein is perfect prose. Here's the full paragraph. 3 sentences, 1 moment of creation. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 in the morning. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. Goth-tastic, right? But is it literary perfection? To determine this, we'll break down the writing, word choice, sentence shape, rhythm, so it all makes sense whether or not you've read the book or seen any of the movies. You should read the whole book, by the way, unless you don't think smart people desirous to play God by creating life is relevant anymore. Surely we've learned to separate ambition and hubris by now. Sentence 1. Setting, tone, and Victor's ego. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. Let's break this down a piece at a time, starting with it was and that. This structural choice creates a cleft sentence, a way of spotlighting detail. Instead of on a dreary November night I beheld, Shelley delays the reveal, making the timing itself the when, the star. That delay summons attention. You lean forward. Then, dreary night of November. Dreary is simple but strong. No fancy vocabulary needed. November signals endings, last leaves, early dusk. The double hit, night and November, makes it extra bleak. As a sound note, listen to the nasal hums and liquids within dreary night of November. The phrase trudges. What about beheld? Not saw. Beheld sounds ceremonial, like witnessing a ritual. That one verb raises the tone and hints that Victor sees himself as doing something grand, the priest at his own unholy rite. Accomplishment of my toils gives two contrasting flavors. Accomplishment, which is polished and triumphant, versus toils, which is sweaty and heavy. That mix tells us who Victor is, proud of his hard work, narrating his life like a heroic project, a warning sign for hubris. But why does this matter for character and plot? Well, we meet Victor as a man who frames his life through effort and spectacle. He doesn't just do, he beholds. And he names his work as toils, already sounding like a martyr in his own legend. Shelley's writing introduces his voice and ego before anything moves. Fast fact, as mentioned earlier, Mary Shelley conceived Frankenstein in 1816. Significant because this was called the year without summer. After a volcanic eruption, dimmed skies across Europe. Gloomy skies, constant rain, life by candlelight. Shelley's choice of night and November isn't random Gothic decor. It echoes the world she lived in. That lived atmosphere becomes the paragraph's mood engine. Sentence 2, the procedure and the moral distance. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. By writing anxiety that almost amounted to agony, Shelley pairs Victor's emotion with control. Let's call it a controlled intensity. Notice the sound pattern with the alliteration of anxiety, agony, which links the words to be then combined with almost amounted. She's showing him as excited, terrified, but still measuring it. Victor, the experimenter, can't stop quantifying even his feelings. I collected the instruments of life around me is a great phrase. We don't see the tools, we only hear the name he gives them. What are they? Knives? Wires? Bottles? It keeps mystery alive and tidies away the messy reality of a corpse. The phrase is a curtain you never get to lift. The preposition around is spatial choreography, arranging a circle, a ritual ring. Science? Or magic? The prose lets both vibes coexist. Let's now hone in on some fascinating word choices. First, infuse, which is a careful, almost gentle verb, akin to pouring tea. Spark is also interesting, a word that denotes both literal electricity and the Enlightenment metaphor for knowledge. Being is philosophical, and this is important. It's not a person, just existence. That's chilling. He's aiming for life in general, not a someone. Look next at the noun phrase, the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. The most important noun in the whole paragraph can be found here. Thing. A dehumanizing noun. Not a man, not body. Thing. But Shelley's not done yet. The ethics continue to snap into focus with lay at my feet, which literally places the creature beneath Victor. The power dynamics are indeed underfoot, with Victor and pride above it. And so with this line, Victor, through the use of language, creates the distance he'll soon act on. If you call someone a thing, it's easier to abandon them. Another relevant fast fact, Shelley moved in circles awed by electricity and galvanism. These thinkers were obsessed with whether sparks could twitch dead tissue. So, her use of instruments of life and infuse a spark of being is revealed as cutting-edge science turned into Gothic poetry. Plus, she's blending it with a deep philosophical question. What is life? Sentence 3, Part A. Time, weather, and a dying candle. It was already 1 in the morning. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out. Check out already 1 in the morning. The word already tells us we've crossed a line. Too late, too far. The semicolon is a beat, not a full stop. Using it, suspense stretches. With the rain pattered dismally against the panes, we get sound in pattered, mood in dismally, and place in pains. If you think this is a stretch, look again at pattered. Better yet, say it. The word emerges soft, like little drum taps. It makes the scene feel quiet and focused. Amazing how what might seem like arbitrary word choices build perfection, right? Now let's shine our light on, and my candle was nearly burnt out. The candle is symbol and timer, and the word nearly is crucial. Life is about to begin, just as light is about to end. That crossfade is the paragraph's theme in miniature. Remember what I said about the year in which Shelley wrote this? Living by fickle candlelight during this gloomy period would have given her a keen eye for how light shapes one's mood. Cleverly, Shelley has here turned a failing flame into a moral signal, essentially saying that knowledge without care leads to dim light. Sentence 3, Part B. Zoom in, blink, jolt. When, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. Half-extinguished is a perfect paradox, and one we instantly feel. The world is in half-light, and so is Victor's understanding of what he's doing. Notice how we've also retreated to the plain verb saw. No ceremonial beheld now. It's immediate, involuntary, and dull yellow is a masterful choice. Seriously, that is the wrong color for a miracle. It's sickly, not shining. The image is unforgettable because it's not pretty. Let's move on to the short clause, it breathed hard. Say it aloud and hear how blunt and clinical the words hit. Convulsive motion agitated is also effective because it lengthens the mouthful, imitating the spasm it describes. The syntax enacts the movement and keeps us from feeling cozy about this so-called birth. A pretty fascinating and relevant fast fact here comes from Shelley's 1831 introduction to the novel. She described a waking dream, make of that what you will, that she had of a pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together, and the hideous phantasm of a man that began to stir under some powerful engine. Not hard to see how that vision became the eye-opening. Notice as well how she doesn't show the whole body. She chooses one chilling detail, and arguably, it's that restraint that helps make the moment iconic. Is it perfect? The success of Frankenstein changed everything for Mary Shelley. It gave her independence, reputation, and a voice that could not be silenced. She would face more tragedy, the loss of more children, the death of Percy Shelley, but she had already proven she could transform suffering into art and carve out a career in a world that rarely let women stand alone. But we're making an argument for literary perfection, so to get us closer to our verdict, let's pull back for a second and summarize how this single passage informs the whole novel. Let's consider character. We mentioned how Victor uses elevated language for himself, beheld accomplishment, and distancing language for the creature, thing, and creature. That's the personality blueprint, ambition without empathy. It also reveals plot. This is the inciting incident, but more, it's a pattern generator, anticipation leading to action, and then immediate recoil. That rhythm will repeat. Victor creates, he recoils. The creature seeks connection, he recoils. Deaths occur, he pursues, but then recoils. The syntax itself predicts the novel's chase and shudder structure. You can map Victor's morality by his nouns, instruments, thing, creature. This is prose that indicts its own speaker, without the author stepping in to scold. Nah. What the hell? Dreary plus dismally is a touch repetitive. Where did you come from? Galvanism. From that lightning bolt that shot out of your finger. But where did you come from? The point is, I don't think that repetitiveness of dreary and dismally was actually intentional. Just, okay, well, I think she did it to thicken the mood. Plus, that last phrase, convulsive motion agitated its limbs, creates a, tonal mismatch with the plainer breathed hard. Well, I think that tension is the point. The human body erupts into the sterile language of procedure, a tiny moral shiver. Agree to disagree. Well, in my book, what makes this paragraph extraordinary isn't just that something comes to life, like me. It's that great prose comes to life. It's built right into the words and punctuation. Shelley turns settings into ethics, diction into diagnosis, and sentence shape into suspense. A reading experience where grammar, not just plot, makes the argument. So the candle may be half lit, but the writing is fully lit. Lame. Okay, well, let's ask the audience. Is Mary Shelley's prose in this paragraph perfect? I would genuinely value your thoughts, so please leave them in the comments. I will be leaving plenty. Good, because doing so greatly helps the channel and our slowly growing community of lit lovers to bloom. Go on then, sign off. Yeah, I was going to. Perhaps perfection is impossible. Duh. Well, that's okay, because the pursuit, however, that's where let me do it. Perhaps perfection is impossible, but sometimes, against impossible odds, a single paragraph can save its author and keep burning for centuries. That actually is pretty good. But I always end with the pursuit, however, that's where the fun is. Read on! That's my line. Read on!